Got Your Back Podstream is brought to you by Kinprint. For all your company's promotional needs, they do it all. Apparel, promotional products using the highest quality brands. They do logo design, signage, and printing. Kinprint will promote your brand with excellence. Visit kinprint.ca. What's going on, folks? Happy Sunday night to you. Welcome to Got Your Back, live stream edition, on location tonight. We'll get to more of that in just a moment. Got Your Back is always brought to you by our good friends at Sherwood Buick GMC. Have you seen that dealership? Have you seen that showroom? Something else, just off Baseline Road, heading into Sherwood Park. They do such a great job of making the process easy. Quite often, trying to buy a vehicle is like pulling teeth. At Sherwood Buick GMC, they've streamlined it. They respect your time. Their salespeople will treat you with respect. I've bought a vehicle there. It's a great experience. Go see Phil and the crew at Sherwood Buick GMC and tell them that Got Your Back sent you. We are live tonight on location at Long Shots out here in Sherwood Park. They've got locations out on Stony Plain Road and here in Sherwood Park as well. If you're into golf and you're into a real great pub experience, Long Shots is definitely the place to be. Fantastic TrackMan simulators. So the golf is high end, you know that. But they've got a real solid spot here. The food is great. We've tried a couple of different things off the menu, and it's tons of fun. So we're going to do a few on locations this season from Long Shots here in Sherwood Park. By the way, their league play is getting underway October 3rd. You can go to longshots.ca to register. It's a ton of fun. 10 rounds, men, women, everybody's welcome. A lot of fun. Way to get that golf fix in the winter and the fall and winter when the courses are starting to shut down. All right, time to check in with Jason Strudwick. Struddy, our third, has been on the road for a little bit. But Brownie, I think, is on his way back into town. The masses have been asking, where is Rob Brown? He misses a couple of pods, and it's all I'm hearing from people.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. I mean, we're killing it right now. And Brownie misses a handful of pods, and you'd think we gave him the boot. So, yeah, he'll be back. And, yeah, I think he was kind of on a journey of self-discovery, but working on his body, I think, fleshing out the system. So,
yep.
We'll get an update from that when he catches up with us this week.
Big Nordic spa guy from what I hear. So we'll hear more from him. I'm going to give you 20 seconds on the pod tonight to talk about the Giants, and then I'm going to cut you off. So go ahead. You must be feeling good. Little comeback. Had you feeling good?
Well, in a nutshell, 6 quarters we went without scoring. Then we come back and have a huge comeback, and we win. But the problem was our best player, Saquon Barkley, sprained his ankle on a nothing play, second last play of the game. So dejection settled in as we play 49ers on Thursday. So a loss for sure. I'm available to be with you on Thursday night, everybody.
Sounds good. And we'll be dropping 3 or 4 podcasts a week. Once the season gets going, we'll be going 4 a week, and it's going to be a ton of fun this year. Want to set up the podcast quickly for you. Listen, the Oilers rookies are playing in Penticton, and we're really going to start hitting the Oilers hard this upcoming week as training camp kicks off. But there was a story in the NHL today. Of course, Mike Babcock resigning as head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that is the story in the National Hockey League today. So, Struds, we're going to dig in a little bit on that one. Aaron Portzline from The Athletic is going to join me in just a moment. I caught up with him about 15 minutes ago. I grabbed him on the phone. He's a busy guy, but nobody is more plugged into what's going on in Columbus than Aaron Portzline from The Athletic, and some real good insights from him on what happened. How did this happen? What's going on behind the scenes? What's next? Who's responsible? Asked him all of those questions. Also today on the pod, Struds and I will lean in with our opinions on this situation in our takeaways segment. Struds, I asked you what Struddy's world was going to be, and you gave us one word, mustard.
Right.
So don't know how you're going to fill a couple of minutes talking about mustard, but that will be Struddy's world. And then, as always, we'll take your questions here on the stream. So just setting up the podcast for you. All right, let's get to the breakdown. And that's going to be brought to you by our good friends at Adrenaline Diesel, one of our newer sponsors here on the pod. They specialize in heavy-duty truck and trailer repair, performance tuning, parts, and sales. They got 7 gigantic bays, and there's not much they can't figure out for you. Marty and his crew have extremely high standards. They will leave your truck in great shape like it's right out of the factory. go to adrenalinediesel.ca. So once again, Mike Babcock resigning as head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets before he even coached a practice. If you haven't been following the story, listen, this is all about whether or not the NHLPA was investigating this. There were allegations that he was, kind of inappropriately asking players to see their phones and see pictures on their phones, and how maybe this was not appropriate for some of the younger players. When it happened, Boone Jenner, Johnny Gaudreau, the team immediately came out and said to the accusations from Spit and Chicklets that, no, there's nothing here. Boone Jenner saying that his interactions were fine. Well, the PA investigates, and this news comes down today. Let's get to my conversation with Aaron Portzline, who does a great job covering the Blue Jackets for The Athletic. All right, I know it's been an absolutely crazy few days for you, Aaron. I really appreciate you taking the time. You're on the road now. You're heading to camp, or where are you going?
Yeah, no problem. I'm somewhere between Traverse City and Ann Arbor. I got to knock half of this out tonight because media day is tomorrow at high noon, and Traverse City's quite a fair shot from Columbus, so better to get half of it done now.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
Thanks for the phone call, man. It's a nice chat.
Yeah, no, it's great to talk to you. I don't see enough, just once or twice a year, kind of as Columbus rolls through town.
Right.
But listen, you do great work over at The Athletic, and you did great work the last couple of days here. So Mike Babcock's tenure already done in Columbus. So the article that you wrote talked about this raises some tough questions for the Blue Jackets organization, and maybe we'll get there in a few minutes. But first and foremost, can you tell me everything that we know, the information that's out there about exactly what we know happened between Babcock and players other than Boone Jenner and Johnny Gaudreau? Because while that statement was released saying that they had no issues with their interactions at all, clearly some others did. The PA got involved. So what do we actually know about what happened, Aaron?
Yeah, well, this story has really sort of evolved from when it first became known through the Spit and Chicklets podcast. At first, I think the PA, the NHL, the Blue Jackets were of a mind that while it was an awkward thing to do, that it was a fairly innocent thing, and the players were okay with it. And this was a story they thought was going to sort of die there. And it's quite clear that some other players, be that in the Blue Jackets dressing room or beyond, I think both, reached the NHLPA and said, no, this is what happened. This is how this interaction went. I feel bad, frankly. I think I am right to feel bad for Boone Jenner, Johnny Gaudreau, Werenski, other players that have spoken about this. It's possible that their interactions were different. It's possible that at the time that they spoke, they were unaware that some of their teammates had interactions that were either different than theirs or perceived to be different from theirs, or both. But clearly this was way beyond the pale. This was not just let me see some pictures. This was players literally turning their phone over, and that's a exclusive feeling. I think whenever somebody grabs your phone and looks at it, if you would ever even allow that. But these, the suggestions, these are young players that, a XL coach with 700 wins, a Stanley Cup, a reputation, that can be a hard situation to say no to. And perhaps it was different for Jenner, for Werenski, for Gaudreau.
Of course.
Perhaps they did push back. I'll send you pictures, but I'm not just going to give you my phone. But it's just such a bizarre thing at any level because, Ryan, we have ways today of sharing pictures. You don't just have to hand somebody your phone. And it could have been worse than that. I've heard tales that have not been confirmed that it went beyond just looking at pictures. So this is behavior that cannot be abided. It cannot be just passed off as a veteran coach trying to get to know his players. It can't be minimized as young, soft players from the new generation not putting up with a hard-nosed coach. This is unacceptable behavior anytime, any place, and they had to act.
You mentioned Boone Jenner and Johnny Gaudreau and some of the players that had talked about this. The one question that I have, would be if you're the captain of the team and allegations are being made that some inappropriate stuff had happened between the coach and the players on the phone, did it behoove the leadership group to check in with the rest of the guys to make sure that everybody else's interactions had been okay, rather than just, I mean, they got that defense and those statements out super fast after everything hit the fan.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but wonder if maybe taking a little bit more time to check in and make sure everybody was good. I know it's hindsight, but I wonder if those conversations were had, or if they checked in with the rest of the guys beyond it just being my interaction was fine. Because captains are going to get treated different than 18 and 19 and 20-year-old young guys. So I just wonder if the leadership group should have checked with everybody.
Yeah, well, those are questions that are absolutely going to be asked tomorrow. I think a lot of times pro sports teams' first response to any of this stuff is make it go away.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's possible. I'm willing to give the organization. I asked Jarmo Kekalainen today, is this story different to you now than it was when you first heard it? And he did not respond to that. The news was not out yet that Mike Babcock had resigned. But if I'm him, or if I'm Blue Jackets ownership, I am concerned that I've got players in my room that are more willing to speak their truth to Paul Bissonnette, nothing against him, to somebody outside the room, and to the NHLPA than they are to me or to people that they trust in the organization. That is a huge concern to me, and demands, I think, further introspection here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And, you wonder, like some of these guys are pretty young, right? And I don't think we know, we're not naming names in terms of which players and such right now, but Mike Babcock would have been having meetings with all of the players, and lots of them are younger guys. And if this is something that he was regularly doing, you have to wonder if at a certain point agents get involved, and even parents to a degree. And, there's kind
100%.
of a system of checks and balances there. And, maybe when they dug a little bit deeper, it was very clear that the players were willing to voice their discomfort to somebody. And that's when the PA gets involved and this investigation starts. But the initial reaction from the organization, did they need to do more before so swiftly putting out the statement as firmly as they did?
That is an answer that a question that I hope to get an answer to. I don't know that. I don't know if so. The way I see this is there will be attempts by people, like I said, to put this on the players in the organization who, in their mind, didn't push back or weren't, strong enough in their interaction. That's completely and totally unfair.
I agree.
This is Mike Babcock to own. It may also be some fault of Blue Jackets management, but I don't know yet if they were misled, if Mike Babcock did not tell them the truth, and if, again, Gaudreau and Jenner and others, if their truth was different than the young players, their interaction was different from the players. That to me, as long as that is possible, it's probably too soon to say this is management's fault as well. The only thing I think we can say with confidence right now is that Mike Babcock deserved to own this, and his statement, in my mind, as statements often do, falls way short. It was, I don't want to be a distraction. It wasn't, I did it again, and I can't do this anymore, or I apologize for putting players in an awful spot. I apologize for being the source of something that threatens to divide an NHL locker room, that's the last thing a coach is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring a room together.
Let me ask you this, and this is often the case, because I agree completely. There was zero accountability in that statement at all. But we're pretty early days here, and I can't help but wonder what is yet to be lawyered. What happens to his contract, what he admits to now, how that comes out in the wash. I think I'm not going to use the word benefit of the doubt, because I think that's probably too kind, but we never know what's involved from a legal standpoint when these statements are made. And because I agree with you, there was zero accountability, so much so that it makes me wonder if there was much he could say at this point for where things are. But at some point, you would think that needs to happen from Mike Babcock if when the lawyers and such get out of the way, because it was a weak statement. And quite frankly, I thought the Players Association statement was excellent about how their players need to be treated with respect. And that was not the case here.
Yes.
Good for them, because they're in the middle of this and they know what happened.
Yes. Yeah. And they're the ones that still have the ability to speak freely. I'll be very interested tomorrow. Boone Jenner will be one of the 4 players made available during media day. And sad, isn't it, that this club, which has some pretty impressive veterans and a really impressive young group of players, and is leaving the prospect tournament after really putting on a show. Adam Fantilli looks just like an absolutely dazzling player. None of this tomorrow is going to be about, who's your second line center. Yeah. None of this is going to be about the season to come. It's still going to be hijacked by this. And I'll say this too, Pascal Vincent, who has been promoted from associate coach to head coach. This is awkward too for him. He's been passed over twice for this job, and now he is Babcock's replacement. It's totally unfair to him, because that is a very well respected hockey mind. That's a guy who is probably at a point where he's ready to be an NHL head coach. I think they can be fine with him. It's going to be a different feel, but this is how he lands his first NHL head coaching job.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that sentiment. Let's go bigger picture on the Columbus Blue Jackets. I haven't stumbled across many hockey conversations where people say, hey, pretty shrewd move by the Jackets, hey, when it comes to bringing in Mike Babcock. And I think you might have made a similar point in your piece. It seems like, there were a couple of guys that felt like this was a good idea, and they were the guys that made the decision to bring him in. There's tons of blame to go around in a bunch of different directions here, but this has to fall squarely at Kekalainen's feet, I would think, does it not? I mean, he's the guy that's tasked with doing this, and this has backfired tremendously, and nobody can possibly say that they're shocked by this turn of events, which maybe says a lot right there.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and it, the thing that's tough for this franchise is they have a minority owner, the McConnell family, majority owner, sorry, the McConnell family, that is pretty much all you can ask for from a professional sports ownership group. If anything, they've been too hands off, but they are higher hockey people, smart hockey people. John Davidson, before that, Scott Howson, who Edmonton would know well. Jarmo Kekalainen, put them in charge. Tell us what you need. And for the most part, the ownership group here, I mean, look at the contract doled out to Severson this summer. Look at the money they paid Panarin. They were willing to pay for Bobrovsky to keep him. I mean, that's what they do. This is the kind of stuff, though, that demands that ownership step forward and figure out, what are we doing here, guys? Where they like to be hands-off and they like to trust their hockey people. I'm not sure that is allowed right now or that's possible. I don't think anybody has that much patience. I would suspect that ownership has to step up and get some answers here. And while the indication at this point is that Jarmo Kekalainen is safe, I don't think anybody would be surprised if there's a change in that position over the next few days. I don't know what that means for John Davidson, the president of the hockey club either. Typically, presidents get avoid the line of fire and things like this. GMs get to go first. Jarmo is JD's hire from his first tour in Columbus, but Jarmo's been here for 10 years, one of the longest-serving GMs in the NHL. I think these are questions. I don't think there's really any question right now that's unfair to have.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure it happens here in the near term, because quite frankly, you're about to start a season and there is an incredible amount of unrest happening in that room right now. You've got issues potentially, you want to make sure the players are able to work through this together and all come out on the same page. You want to calm the waters down. You probably need to err on the side of calming things down and having a bit of consistency. So maybe it's not the best move to make here in the near term, Aaron, because how much upheaval can you have all at once?
Yeah, I think you have to put out the fire, and the fire was Babcock. Now, you can assess damage now, maybe breathe a bit before you can measure what else needs to be done. The other thing I would say is that they have a front office with some very capable people in it. People who are frankly willing to be considered for bigger jobs, if not in Columbus, outside the organization. I think it's Chris Clark, former player, former captain of the Washington Capitals before Ovechkin. Very well respected guy. He's the assistant GM. He runs for Cleveland. Boston, but he does a lot more than that. He's been an assistant GM here for a few years. To me, that's an obvious choice. They promote Pascal Vincent to head coach. I'm not sure what they do with the open assistant job, but here's a name Edmonton will recognize, and I think he'd be one hell of a choice. Mark Letestu has been part of this organization now 3 different times, twice as a player, one in a coaching capacity. He's on the staff in Cleveland, their AHL franchise. Very well respected, a guy who knows every position at forward, played them all, sometimes the same game, and knows what it's like to play with great young players. He did it with Crosby in Pittsburgh. He did it with McDavid in Edmonton, and now he's got a chance with Fantilli in Columbus. He's been around superstars at a very young age and has shepherded them and been part of it. To me, that's the guy that makes a ton of sense in that capacity.
Last question for you, and we'll let you go, Aaron. I know you're on the road tonight. You think, what are the chances that this causes any sort of issues in the locker room, right? Yeah, the veteran group and the leaders come out and say, listen,
Sure.
Nothing here. Our guy was fine in their interactions, and clearly that wasn't the case. So some smoothing over needs to be done, and some players that maybe aren't that familiar with one another. So what are the chances that this causes issues, or do you think the leadership group is such they'll be able to calm the waters?
Well, this is one of the reasons I think that this is absolutely imperative that they did it and did it as soon as they did. I got a text message from a player within the room that said that the players are united. He understands people questioning that, but they are together. That indicates to me, but I think it's a fair, a difficult question tomorrow for Boone Jenner and others on the leadership group. When that statement was issued, what did you know? And did that change in the few days to follow? If you had a statement to do overall again, how would that statement read today? You know, listen, I have a ton of respect for Boone Jenner. He's one of the more respected players in the league for the way that he plays. Very serious guy. These are, I know he doesn't enjoy this kind of stuff. He's a hockey player through and through. He wants to play hockey. He doesn't want to face these kind of questions, but this sometimes is the requirement of a captain. And there can be tough times and you need to get to navigate it. He was brought into this perhaps unfairly by the people on the podcast, held up as an example of what Babcock did. I don't know that there's a suggestion that his interaction with Babcock is deemed to be unprofessional or over the line. But I'd love to know what his statement would be today if he had to issue it. My sense is that it's something very, very different. But Brian, to answer your question, if it's not different, if he holds to that, well, yeah, you got real issues. You've got, I think, people unfairly heaping this on other people in the room whose experiences, quite obviously, were different than their own.
Aaron, great stuff, man. You blasted out a couple of articles today in short time, and as always, they were of the highest quality. So look forward to your continuing coverage of this story in the coming days on The Athletic. Thanks, pal.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Ryan. Have a pleasant day.
Aaron Portzline of The Athletic.
You're muted there, Shaggy.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with the mute button on this podcast. 3 podcasts in a row, Zuby, where I have muted my microphone and forgot to turn it back on when we came back. So I think that's 10 push-ups each time. So I owe you guys 30. Aaron Portzline joining us on our Weiss Johnson digital hotline. Getting your furnace service now before winter, it's the time to do it, because when it's minus 30 and everybody else is breaking down, that's not the time to make the call. Being proactive rather than reactive, it's always a good idea. Weiss Johnson will take fantastic care of you for all your HVAC needs, air conditioning, heating, plumbing, whatever you guys need, Weiss Johnson has got you covered.
Weiss Johnson, whoa.
All right, the Kin Print live stream is going to continue right after the break. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Long Shots, where we are live on location. When we come back from that in our takeaways segment, Struds and I are going to weigh in with our opinions on the news of the day. Mike Babcock no longer with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Back in like 25 seconds. Long Shots Golf is the destination for both golf enthusiasts and sports fans. Top-of-the-line TrackMan simulators provide a highly entertaining and accurate golf experience, while a full-service sports bar loaded with big screens and scratch kitchen make it a truly unique destination. They have locations in Sherwood Park and Edmonton. Experience the best indoor golf and sports bar in town. Visit longshots.ca. That's longshots with a Z.ca. All right, time now for takeaways, brought to you by one of our newest sponsors, Dr. Tyler Fix and Redefined Health, where they specialize in total body and mind wellness, from chiro and massage care treatments to acupuncture, soft tissue therapy, nutrition, even an on-site registered psychologist. Redefined Health is there to help you get well and stay well. Visit redefinedhealth.com. Okay, Struddy, we're 20 minutes into the podcast. You barely had a chance to talk. Listen, give me your thoughts on the news of the day with Mike Babcock no longer being there. And, do you have a headline thought about what Aaron had to say?
Well, great stuff from Aaron. And it's really hard for me to kind of understand what was going on in there. Like, it's very much like, there's a lot of different opinions about what happened, what may not have happened, and to what level it happened with which players. And I tried to think back, did I ever feel that a coach invaded my privacy? Pictures on phones weren't a big thing. I didn't really take a lot of pictures anyways. They've been pretty boring. But, getting to know your players, I think is important, especially today. I think players really want to know that. But, I think there's a limit. Could you say, hey, can you bring 3 pictures of your families we could just look at? Would you feel comfortable with that? I think that'd be all right. Just getting to someone's phone, you don't know what's on someone's phone. I just think it's pretty, it just doesn't seem like it was well thought through. So I can't comment to that on that. But what I do want to comment on is when you guys are talking about what that vibe will be like in the room. And I don't think it really makes a difference to the players. Let's just look at this. This isn't a coach that has led the Columbus Blue Jackets and many of those players to wild success over the past 5 years. Like, this isn't a team that went to the Stanley Cup final. It is a team in transition. It is the team with new players joining, where nobody in that lineup had this guy coach for a second for this team.
Yeah.
So I think with the players, like, okay, he's out, no problem. It's not like there's an old group that had allegiance. Like, we maybe think back to when Pat Quinn is with the Vancouver Canucks, there was allegiance to him. Then Mike Keenan comes in or something like that. We don't see that. So I don't think for the I'm trying to think if I was in their shoes, where would I feel? And I'm like, yeah, he's out. Okay, we got a new coach. All right, we still got a lot of work to do here.
Move it on.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a big deal. Like, where's the allegiance? Like, I don't see the allegiance. It's
okay.
not. It's
so. Let me ask you something similar to what I asked Aaron, because when this news broke and when Spit and Chicklets did what they did, the way they did it, the Columbus Blue Jackets rallied quickly, and they had a statement out quickly from the organization, from Babcock, from Boone Jenner, and Johnny Gaudreau.
Right.
Here's my issue, Struds. I think as the captain of the team and as the core leadership group, rather than rushing to put out a statement because your GM is saying, hey, did you guys have an issue with this? Can we get something out because this is bad and we want to get something out? If you didn't have an issue, we need to tell people that, right? Because Boone Jenner was mentioned by Spit and Chicklets, right? I think as the captain of the team, you're going and publicly make this statement, don't you need to check in with the rest of the guys just to make sure that there isn't anything else to it? Don't you need to check in with everybody else just to make sure that there isn't something to this? Or was he okay to just go on his experience alone and back the guy the way he did?
Yeah, I actually think that's Jarmo Karkalainen's job. Isn't he the GM? Who hired this coach? Whose job is it ultimately, the decision of who and who does not coach this team? if I'm the owner, I'm looking at Yarmos thinking, man, like what's going on here? Like, I personally didn't understand this hire. I don't believe that Mike Babcock was the missing piece for this group. I think they needed a guy with a history of working with young players in a very positive way. They have so many young players coming in. So was this the guy? I didn't understand it. And then any kind of and this is maybe the wrong word, Sugar, but a circus. Why invite someone into your house that may create a bit of a circus and be a distraction anyway? This isn't, Scotty Bowman in the, mid to late 90s running this team where you're like, this guy comes in, things change. Like, he hasn't coached for a while, and I don't know that it was really going to be that big a deal. So why hire this guy? I don't understand. I just don't understand why you'd bring him in the first place. So I understand what you're saying about Boone Jenner, but ultimately the GM is responsible for this hire. I believe he is the one that should have been contacting some of the younger players or all the players. What was your experience like? What happened? He went through all your pictures. Did he download something? Like what is going on? So I believe it's on him. I don't believe it is the captain's responsibility. He didn't hire this guy in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, I'll disagree with you a little bit in that I think maybe both could have, right? So if you're Boone Jenner and the accusation is made and Spit and Chicklets followed up and said, no, there were other guys. Maybe you do need to follow up and just check in with some of your teammates, right? Just check in because, if you're a young guy on that team or somebody who did go through an uncomfortable situation and immediately the captain they've just gone public saying, no, there's nothing to this. I mean, that's tough. Did he check in with you? Did he check in to see how you're doing or if you had any issues? I would suggest that, for a leadership group, might not have been the worst thing to check in with the guys as well and see. But absolutely, I completely agree with you that Jarmo Kekalainen definitely needed to. Jarmo's sort of coming off like the Teflon man out there in Columbus, not a lot of winning, lots of turnover. And then should this finally be enough?
I think, quite honestly, I think it would have been enough instead of when he trading away guys like Bobrovsky and those guys on that one run where he brought other players in, traded draft picks away and I believe that was the year they beat Tampa. So I'll give him credit, but they flared out in the second round. Like I still can't understand why they would have done that to try to get one round. The playoffs was so short-sighted. Now, to be fair, he might have gotten pressure from ownership. I get that. But long-term, that was not the best thing. Short-term, yes. Medium, long-term, that was not the best decision for that organization. They should have unloaded those players they had. And then the decision to bring in, like I said, let me put it this way. You look at an elite level athlete. If he's got a bit of a circus around him, if he's elite, you're like, okay, I'll deal with this. I can cope with this because of what he brings or she brings to the team. When they become average, you don't want it anymore. It's not worth it. That level of circus is not worth it. And circus can be any issues that they might bring to the team. It's not worth it anymore. It's not worth it. Look around. How many players do you see that are average to below players that have a circus around them that are on teams for a long time? It just doesn't happen. You're out of there, right? Like, it's just not worth it. So, I don't understand the hiring and why you would bring him in. He's not the final piece of the puzzle for the Columbus or, quite frankly, any team.
Yeah. Lots of great comments coming in on the stream. And in our Ask Us Anything segment, we're going to get to some of those and some good discussion points. So we'll deal with that in just a couple of minutes. Before we get to Struddy's World, we should chat a little bit about the Edmonton Oilers. They got their rookie camp going on out in Penticton. Full disclosure, Struddy, it's been a busy couple of days, so I haven't been able to catch much, if any, of the action beyond the highlights. I'm not sure how close attention you've been able to pay to it, but the second-round pick in Boakey making a little bit of noise. And I don't know, this rookie camp, I think it's a good chance for those guys to go there and maybe ring the bell a little bit and get themselves noticed and a little bit of juice heading into main camp. But really, outside Xavier Bourgault, not looking at anybody at this camp that has a potential to spend too much time in Edmonton this season.
100%. I think that what's important for those young players to understand, though, is that there is a huge opportunity in this organization. This organization needs young players to step up and grab spots. It's not going to be this year. You're right. Maybe Xavier Bourgault, but I'd be surprised if anyone else gets some action. But make a name for yourself. Get on the coaches, the GMs, all the management on their radar and have a really good year because going into next training camp, there might be a spot or an opportunity to move up, or this is not the most positive thing, but maybe become trade bait to a team that does have a spot for you. So I think that it's a huge opportunity for these young guys, because the Oilers need players to develop. They need guys coming up from underneath and to fill those spots up for cheap and or move them out. So my advice, if I was their GM or their agent, would be, you guys be the best you can be every time you touch the ice, so you make a name for yourself. Doesn't matter where you're picked, they need them.
Yeah, 100%. And if you have been watching the games and you have a comment, let us know what you've seen so far and how you felt about it. We're live streaming on Twitter and on YouTube as well. Okay, time to get to Struddy's World, brought to you by Pathfind. If you own or operate a business, you know the value of a great employee. Pathfind's there to help you find your next star player to help take your business to the next level. They can help with recruitment, career transition, leadership coaching. They truly have your whole team covered. Find your organization's path forward at pathfind.ca. Roll that animation, Zuby.
When you make a mistake, heads should roll. Just me and Nick Lachey, window down, shirt off, just loving it. My goal is someday maybe be Forrest Gump. Now that I say it out loud, it does sound a little crazy. I consider myself a bit of a planner. I try to look ahead and just have things around the home that will make life easier. For instance, it's pretty rare for me to go to the grocery store and not pick up some toilet paper. I like to have it around because it's not a problem until you don't have any. Dog food. My dog, I always kind of like a bag and a, or not a bag, maybe like, one bag ahead of really what I need. But the food is here because you're going to find out on like a Saturday night, your dog doesn't have any food. Now you're making something special for him. Same thing with paper towels. I'm always buying paper towels. But my wife gets into me. She's like, you can't, why do you buy all this stuff? We have too much around. And then specifically, she gets upset when I buy salsa and mustard. I believe you should have 2 to 3 of those things just kicking around the house, not counting the ones that are in your fridge. You never know when maybe, you got the munchies and you want to have a little bit of salsa and some hint of lime chips, or I want to use mustard. Now, I use mustard for sandwiches. I have sandwiches most days for lunch, not every day, but most of them. And I love to have that mustard. I use French's mustard. That's the only kind I use. And I always have 2 to 3 plus the one in the fridge. My wife was on me a lot, like let's say 2-3 months ago. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to not buy it and see if I can actually do without, because she thinks it takes up room in the pantry. Fair enough. So I decided I'm not going to buy any French's mustard. So I go to the Italian center. I get some really nice cold cuts. I bring it home. I'm putting on more torpedo bun, brown, if you want to know. And I reach in to get the mustard. There's none. I'm like, oh my God, someone's used it up. Some of the selfish kids I have in this house used it. I looked in the recycling bin. There she was, empty. So I walk into the pantry. Of course, I have this beautiful meat, this incredible torpedo brown bun, nothing, no French's. So I give my wife the old tap. Hey, where's the mustard? Where's the French's mustard? We don't have any. I meant to tell we ran out. I was like, oh my God. So, but she goes, we have Dijon mustard. Oh my God. Dijon mustard. The only time she used Dijon mustard is if you're putting it on the outside of a roast, maybe a ham, you put it on that. It ruins the flavor of any good cold cuts. Everyone knows that. So obviously a fight erupts, not physically, obviously, but like not a big fight, but just a battle. I'm like, I told you so. I should have bought it. It's like, well, you should do your own thing. So we go back and forth. So at the end of the day, I get that. I walk out. I eat this stuff. I put barbecue sauce on it. It was not even the same. It ruined the taste of the meat. The torpedo bun wasn't the same. It gets soggy. I went out and I bought 4 French's mustard. I bought 4 and they're in there. So at the end of the day, I will never do that again. Toilet paper, paper towels, French's mustard, and salsa will always be there in my house. I don't know if you guys have that experience before, but there's nothing worse than not having what you want when you need it. Another one might be maple syrup, guys. Ruin the whole lunch.
Okay, we'll get to the mustard in a minute. Oh man. Okay, you have an amazing way of turning a 30-second point into a 4-minute segment. It's really quite impressive.
I want to be clear.
Doesn't it suck when there's no mustard? Hey.
No, it's the backstory is important.
I hear you, and you lay great groundwork for us, Zuby. I don't know. You could come in and you could chime in. I mean, listen, if you're a mustard fan, mustard is a game changer on your sandwich because it stands out probably more than any of the other accoutrements. So I can understand your passion for it. And when it's missing from your sandwich, it's not going to be anywhere in the neighborhood. Don't know that I would have dedicated the whole segment, but that I think just speaks to your passion level and how much you love mustard.
Well, I have a way of doing things. And my wife, I've been doing this for like 25 years. And my wife just, for once I trusted her, and it screwed everything up. It ruined the lunch and ruined this meat. I got some really nice meat. You guys know the Italian
Completely ruined the
standards.
lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Ruined my whole lunch.
I have a suggestion, and this is super crazy coincidence. I think just yesterday literally got mustard by mail, by which I mean I bought some on Amazon to be delivered.
Okay. Right.
And you can subscribe to household items like mustard, and then you would never run out. You can set it up so that you get a new French's or whatever every month, and then I could take this whole conversation out of your house if you let me sign you up for monthly mustard by mail.
But the problem is
patent pending.
My mustard consumption goes down the winter because I turn my world to soup. And I get, I don't know if anyone else uses Amy's soups. They're delicious, absolutely delicious soups. And that's what I use. Not to toot my own horn, but one Amy's soup and about 10 brown crackers, saltine crackers, just delicious.
Curb84 chimes in and says, "This is like listening to my nephew talk about a dog he saw outside." Says Curb84. Oh boy, yeah. Listen, one of the most annoying things for me with mustard is the application process. You got a nice sandwich, you've made it, you're really looking forward to it, and you go to put the mustard on, and it leaks out like 2.5 ounces of just yellow water juice.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts to the point where I hesitate sometimes to even try and put mustard on a sandwich.
No, you shake it. That's amateur hour. I always get it. And a couple hard shakes blends it up right back on there. It's so good. It's so
Some
good.
stranger agrees with me. He says, "Why is it always water that comes out first?" Yeah, 100% mustard. I'm not sure if they need a better lid on it, or I don't know what it is.
If you have a dad like mine, when it starts getting down to the nitty gritty, he starts adding water too.
Oh, I know.
Oh God! Just to salvage it? Oh, gross!
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
awful.
That's fine.
We're
to
gonna
do
end
with
with
like liquid detergent. You can do that with liquid detergent. You know, that you wash your dishes with. You cannot do that with mustard. It defeats the whole purpose, man. I can't believe that just ruined my night.
You're gonna have nightmares.
Oh God, I can't.
Water
That was Struddy's
Your dad's
World. Struddy's World brought to you by our good friends at Pathfind. Last segment is where we're going to dive into the stream. We've had lots of great interaction tonight on YouTube. We apologize that the comments over on Twitter aren't working. We're blaming Elon. I'm pretty sure I have to pay for a subscription or something in order for people to be able to comment over on Twitter. So sorry about that, but lots of good action here on the YouTube stream here on our Kinprint live stream. And Ask Us Anything is going to be brought to you by the Shark of the Park, Renee Buclan of Maxwell Devonshire Realty. She's all about amazing service for her clients. Buying a house is a huge deal. So you want to go with someone that you know you can trust and you know that is working for you 24/7 to either sell your home or help you find a brand new one. And Renee does that. Call her at 780-994-0280. Lots of good comments coming in on the stream during that Aaron Portzline interview, Zuby. If you were able to grab a few of them, but definitely the talking point of the night.
Let's start with our pal Curb. He said, Joel Quenville is out there somewhere swearing at Babs for ruining his second chance hopes. What do you think? Is there anything to that? Could any of this, feel like that's related in any way?
Struds?
That's a good point, actually, by the Curbmeister. I would actually suggest that they're probably not related. I think you have to take each of the incidents on their own and kind of, instead of throwing a blanket on, I'll say, well, these guys are all going to do something again that's probably a bad choice. I guess my final point about Babcock, Rishaug, would be surprised. Like, did he not kind of rethink how he's going to approach players? And I guess that, he talked about it. I know he mentioned he was going to try to be different. He had a plan for each individual player, and it doesn't seem like he did. So,
yeah.
And I think that's scary.
Listening to the things that were said in the interviews that he did in the time that he's left the National Hockey League, I mean, I don't know. Did we really hear about a lot of owning mistakes of the past and deep reflection and such? I never really got the feeling like there was, a tremendous amount of substance behind the words that he did say. And it goes to show, if you think you can come out of the gate with tactic like this, clearly it's an issue. I'll disagree with you a little bit. I do think that this will hurt Joel Quenneville. And here's why, Struds. I think if there's one thing that we just learned, it's that when you're taking a coach that has a past like this and you're putting him back into the spotlight that is the National Hockey League, what they just learned is there is no room for error when there's a history. In other words, basically it needs to be perfection. And I think that anybody who's thinking about Joel Quenneville might look at this situation and go, not like the first thing that comes up, but anything that's significant at all. And it just, because of that past is there. So I do think it could have a bit of an impact on Quenneville. Just it'll make people gun shy to go to somebody that has a past like this. Zuby, what else we got?
Obelisk 21 shouted out my Expos hat, by the way. Thank you. And he also said, if someone said Babcock was looking at what players share publicly on social media, that's one thing, but looking at private, unshared information on someone's phone is way over the line. So how much of that is going? I mean, there must be a fair bit of that going on now, coaches looking at social media, because that's public, right?
Oh, yeah. I would assume, Struds, at coaches, and they have people employed by the team, PR people who would be on all the social media that's public of the players. They would watch that stuff really closely. So, but players who are active on social media, Struds, are well aware that the team would be watching all of that.
Oh yeah. And if you're not, you better get that figured out pretty quick. But yeah, I think that, the idea of going to someone's phone it's a private thing, right? It's just a private item that you have, and you might have some pictures that maybe don't want to be shown to whoever, your parents or a coach or co-worker or whatever it is. So I honestly think if he had said, can you bring 3 pictures of your family? I want to get to know your family. I want to get to know you a little bit better. And so they bring it and they choose and I don't think I would be fine with that. Going into my phone, even though I have nothing in my phone, like pictures of my kids and obviously, me topless doing duck lips into the mirror. That's fine
right.
if he wants to see that.
Right.
But the rest, I don't know. Like, but that's what it makes me think. Like Babcock said, he had an individual plan for each player. And this is what you come up with. Like, I can't believe that is really was the plan, his plan.
Zoobs.
Colin Pond says, sports is changing. You need coaches that can mesh old school with relatability to younger players. He gives Deion Sanders as an example, old school work ethic, but relatable to the kids. What do you guys think about that? And who might fall into that category in hockey?
Struddy?
Well, you're right. I mean, you got to find a way. Look at Joe Tortorella. Like I wouldn't say he's a fresh face in the league, and he still finds a way to kind of have some relatability to the players. But I think you got to stay in touch with maybe what they're into, what they do, what they're thinking. Do I get frustrated that my kids or my friends' kids are on social media a lot or TikTok looking? Yeah, I do. But everybody's kids are on there, or there's, that's a huge part of the world. So you have to understand where they're coming from, why they use it, the connected part, all that. So I think you have to kind of understand why they do what they do. And that's the challenge, I think, for quite frankly, every coach or teacher around.
Yeah. And I think it's just about, understanding like just boundaries, right? I mean, this generation of kids, and I got a 21-year-old, I got a 19-year-old, and it's just different, man. They don't put up with the crap that maybe you or I would have when we were their age, Struds.
Yeah.
Like they don't. Kids are not afraid to kind of question what some would view as authority in their world. If they feel they're not being treated with respect, I think there's a natural pushback more now than there might have been before, where we would just kind of get in line before. I think back to some of the things that were directed at me back in the day, some of the stuff that was said. And I tell you what, man, if anybody ever talked to my kid the way that some people talk to me, there would be fists flying. Yet you just sit there and take it, right? And that's where the game was back then. It doesn't need to still be there. It shouldn't still be there. The crap that we put up with back then should not be the crap that we subject this generation to. I'm fine with all these sorts of changes. And, good. I don't know who these players were. Good for them for voicing their discomfort. and going to people and going, you know what? I know this might suck for the team and might make it difficult and all that, but no, man, this wasn't okay. Good for them.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I double down on my comments. I don't think losing Mike Babcock is going to really suck for the team. I think if this had happened 3 weeks into the year or 2 months into the season, I think it would have been a lot harder. But he hasn't done anything. Yeah, he has not run one practice. So I don't think it's a big deal at all.
Yeah, for sure. Zuby, any more? We're going to wrap it up, pal.
Oh, well, last one, a quick one. We could say Quaddy says you could actually say Columbus dodged a bullet. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to Strud's point, I mean, it's happening before they've run a single practice. So they slide somebody in there that's familiar with the team, Struds. I think that was probably about – it would have been tough to do anything else at this juncture to bring a fresh face in. So they'd do a 2-year deal with a guy that's been there.
Yeah, I just think I don't think dodging – I mean, I guess if you're looking at what he could do to the team, I just don't think there was a huge lift from him. So I don't know. I think they're probably better off.
Dave 0904 with the final comment of the night. Well, you can roll the music. Yeah, there it is. Struddy is bang on. Extra mustard, extra paper towel, extra toilet paper. Oh, and extra. I don't know what that is. What's China Lily? Are those napkins?
I don't know.
Or paper plates.
Oh, paper plates. Yeah.
Yeah, classy guy.
Maybe not. He'll correct us if we're wrong.
All right, that'll wrap the podcast tonight. Fun. This was a little bit different being live on location at Long Shots here in Sherwood Park. Technically, I was not sure that this was all going to work. Randine is here. She's my technical supervisor, helping me out behind the scenes. I got a giant mess of stuff, but I think we were okay, fairly clean. So this was a lot of fun. Our thanks to the crew down at Long Shots here for inviting us down. Going to come back this week and play some golf. Highly encourage you to do the same. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to all of you for your contributions on the live stream, Twitter and YouTube. Rob Brown getting back into town, so those high-end pods are coming your way. Keep an eye on our feeds as Brownie checks back in. Struddy, good job tonight. Zuby, you too. Thanks, guys.
Talk soon.
Thank you. Yep.
All right. Take care. See you soon here on Got Your Back.